صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء المرسلين حبيب الله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. أما بعد، قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض هونا وإذا خاطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما. صدق الله العلي العظيم. إجماع صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Assalamu alaikum, brothers, sisters, and respected scholars. I begin my lecture by sending my peace and blessings on to the Holy Prophet and his blessed progeny, and by congratulating all of you and the Imam of our time, Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, on the birthday of Imam Baqir. For verily, when we look into the life of Imam Baqir alayhi salam, our fifth Imam, we can understand many lessons. And our youth here who spoke today touched upon many of them. I was very happy to hear that he discussed a lot of that which I wanted to discuss. For Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam is the one who created the foundation and set the structure for the believers of the Ja'fari faith, for our jurisprudence, for our philosophy, for our own theology. This comes from Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. But when we look into his life, or we look into our own communities, we see that the Shias do not pay much attention, or we haven't studied the life of Imam Baqir alayhi salam to an extent that we should be happy about it. For when you ask someone about the life of Imam Baqir alayhi salam, they will begin to start discussing Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq after him, or even before him. We discuss Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam. So we want to tonight, inshallah, look a bit more into the life of Imam Baqir alayhi salam. And we want to find the specific lesson that I'm going to discuss tonight. And I'm going to expand on it a bit more as we go on. But as we previously said, Imam Baqir alayhi salam, he was that foundation. Imam Baqir alayhi salam was actually there on the day of Karbala. A lot of people are not aware about this. He is just 3 years old at that time. On the battle of Karbala, on that day, he is there and he sees his family. Only 3.5 when he sees this battle of Karbala occur. And he sees his grandfather, and he sees those of his own family, those who are near to him, these who are shaheed in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one thing I want, of course, all of you to think about is for someone at such a young age, we always discuss, or psychologists always discuss, that someone at their age needs to be shown love. They must be shown affection. They must be shown in a very structured household. One that is, of course, builds upon their character over time through that structure. But we see that in the life of Imam Baqir alayhi salam, at the age of 3.5, after Karbala, he goes to Sham. And in Sham, of course, he is on the way to Sham, he has chains on him. Can you imagine a 3.5-year-old with chains on them? As well as Bibi Sakina or Ruqayya. We see that they're all chained, and just at the age of 3.5. And in Sham, of course, he is also taken there into the court of Yazid. So this is the way that Imam Baqir alayhi salam was grown up, in such a difficult, in such a hard situation. But we can see that later on, during the times of Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam, and then in his own time, we can see that the government slowly starts to ease off. And the government at that time, the Bani Umayyah which ruled, they were so busy in their own affairs, they were so busy in their own haram acts, that they, of course, still wanted to pay attention to Imam Baqir, but he was given a bit more leeway and given a bit more freedom to preach for his school. And during that time, Imam Baqir becomes very well known as Al-Baqir. And Al-Baqir, of course, is the meaning is when a farmer is taking a plot of land and he wants to put in a seed and sow into that land, he splits that land. This is al-Baqir. This is called Baqir. When you want to split it. And it is in that way that we see that Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, he splits knowledge. And one of the important ways that we found out, that we can describe it, is that he seeks knowledge. He splits knowledge. And he spreads knowledge. These three important S's. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam splits knowledge, he seeks knowledge, and he spreads knowledge. How many of us today can say that we also do this? Many of us cannot. So we need to understand that this is a way for us to be able to follow the pathways of our Imam alayhi salam. These are all, we can all look at them in a very contemporary, in a view today, to be able to understand the knowledge and the wisdom that the Ahlul Bayt have given to us. And we have to make sure to use this. And there he begins to teach, he begins to spread knowledge in all fields, from jurisprudence to fields of theology, to fields of philosophy and science. It was not just theology, it was not just Islam, but even outside of it, he teaches so many other fields. In the fields of philosophy, in the fields of science, astronomy, as we discussed. And here he is known as Al-Baqir, the one who splits knowledge. And it is just through that Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam establishes a school which Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, who is of course the one who our school of faith is known after. The Ja'fari jurisprudence is known after Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. And Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq is said to have said his best teacher was Imam al-Baqir. When we discuss these two, we usually discuss them as al-Baqirain. They're the two Baqirs. They're the two people who split knowledge and they seek knowledge. Not as-Sadiqain, but al-Baqirain. So it is through this that we understand Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam a bit better, to be able to fully understand his virtues. And of course, it should be said that there's a very famous hadith from Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. We know that he is one of the closest companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it is said that he's the oldest of the companions to have survived. At the age of 80, he lived long after the times of the prophets. And what's interesting is Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, he once asked the Prophet about the names of his descendants. And the Holy Prophet, what does he say to him? "O Jabir, you will have a long life. Although you will go blind, you will meet the fifth in line of my descendants, whose name will be my name, and who will walk, who will be the same of mine. When you meet him, give my salams to him." And Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari is not someone who we can say is a small companion. The hadith al-Kisa that we recite so often is actually narrated from Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, an Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. We can see it is narrated from him when we get hadith al-Kisa. And he's also someone who, during the time of the Prophet, his father was the one that called him. His father, Abdullah, he is the one who realizes that there is someone by the name of the Holy Prophet who is preaching in Mecca, but he's not being listened to. So they're the first to go to the Holy Prophet and bring him to Medina. And of course, they're one of the most generous in Medina. It is said that the Masjid al-Qiblatain, is the masjid which, of course, if many of you have gone to Hajj, you've seen it, where there is two Qiblas. We know that in the past there was a large house which belonged to the father of Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. And it is said that he is so generous and he gave so much to the Muslim community during that time, where he went into debt for how generous he was. So clearly this portrays the image of Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, for us to understand that he is one of the greatest companions of the Holy Prophet. And as the Holy Prophet says, Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, he turns old. And over time, when he turns old, he starts going blind. And he sits by a street, and he starts to call for al-Baqir to see when he would come. And he is always there at that street. And then he hears one time, he hears a walk. Because of course when you're blind, your other senses become stronger. He hears the walk, and he says, "This is the walk of the Holy Prophet." And then he knows that Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam comes to him. And just as he predicts, he sees the Imam. And there he stands up, and he says salam to him, and he tells him that when he asks him who he is, he replies, Muhammad. Whose son? Ali ibn al-Hussein. And immediately he recognizes him, he kisses him, and he gives him that message of salam. So the Holy Prophet is aware of Imam Baqir alayhi salam. And tonight I want to dissect a certain topic and a certain quality of Imam Baqir to be able to understand him a lot better. One of the fundamental attributes that can be found in the life of Imam Baqir alayhi salam is what we call hilm. We call hilm. This is clemency or forbearance. This is one of the attributes of Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. For when we see in the Quran, as I began my lecture with, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض, the true servants of the most compassionate, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are those who walk the earth humbly. وَحَوْنًا وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ, and when those who are ignorant, they speak to them, what do they say? قَالُوا سَلَامًا, they speak very ignorantly to him. They speak in a very wrong manner. What do they say? قَالُوا سَلَامًا, I say peace to you. And this is al-hilm. This is one of the attributes of Allah, al-halim. This is for someone who has the ability to have self-control, to be able to control their anger, to forgive the other side, to show restraint. And Imam Baqir alayhi salam, he says, Allah, He loves those who are modest and those who are clement, those who have hilm. Clemency, that is the word that I want to look at today. Clemency, which is al-hilm. And we see that Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, al-hilmu tamam al-aql. Clemency is the completion of intellect. First, we understand that Imam Baqir is the seeker of knowledge, and he's the splitter of knowledge. And upon receiving this knowledge, we can understand that he reaches that level which he gets his clemency. He gets this level of hilm. And there's a very important story that is said about Imam Baqir alayhi salam. One day he's walking on a street, and by someone of the Ahlul Kitab, he's called Bakar. He calls Bakar to Imam Baqir alayhi salam. And then, of course, I'm sure all of you might be aware, but Bakar, of course, means from Surah Al-Baqarah, the cow. Because his name is so similar to Bakar, someone calls him as an insult. So if I was to, for example, or for you to be insulted on the street, we would start speaking to that person in a manner. We would tell him, what do you want? We would be very angry, would we not? But what does Imam Baqir alayhi salam, he says, he treats him very kindly. He smiles toward him and he says, no, I'm not Bakar, I am Baqir. That is my name. I'm the seeker of knowledge. Just in a very, very nice manner. He realizes that he hasn't taken it. So the other person, he starts to attack him more. He says, you are the son of a cook. The Imam smiled at him again, and he said, that is her job. Discussing about the mother. But then he keeps on attacking. He says, you are the son of a black woman. To try to insult the Imam. If we hear something like this, we would get very angry. But what does Imam Baqir alayhi salam, he says? He responds, he does not get angry. He very nicely says, if you are truthful, may Allah forgive you. And if you are lying, may Allah forgive you as well. This is the manner that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Imam Baqir alayhi salam shows his high morals and shows this level of hilm, this level of forbearance, this patience when someone is in front of him and someone is trying to make him angry. And we can still see that this hilm is shown by the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he comes to Mecca, after so many different battles and fighting against the Quraysh, he comes to Mecca. And these people who have wronged him through his whole life, from when he called upon when he became a prophet, these people had been attacking him. What does he say? Those that are in Mecca, they think that they're going to be killed. That Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to seek revenge. He says, Al-yawm yawmul marhama. This is the day of mercy. This is the day of forgiveness. And we can see that most of the people, we can see almost all of them are forgived. The Holy Prophet forgives those who are waging war against them. He killed those who Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam believed were so close to him. This was the hilm that belongs to the Holy Prophet and the hilm that belongs to the Holy Prophet's family. We should ourselves try to seek this level of hilm. We should seek this level of clemency to be able to find ourselves in a place where we can also follow the examples. And this is a way of us to show our akhlaq. When anyone comes to us and anyone tries to attack us, attack our character, attack our deen, attack our family, we need to make sure that we can show al-hilm, just like Imam Baqir alayhi salam. So for us to be able to understand that I need to respond to this not with anger, but with kindness, to be able to show them that that is not what I stand for, that is not what Islam has taught me. But Islam has taught me kindness, and I'm going to show you kindness. And this is a way for us to be able to understand. And Imam Rida alayhi salam, he says, a man cannot be a worshipper until he is clement. لا يكون الرجال عبادا حتى يكون حليما. Except that he is clement, that he has that level of hilm, to be able to have patience. And one of the famous sayings of Imam Bakar alayhi salam, he says, I admonish you regarding 5 things. With 5 things, I admonish you. If you are wronged, do not commit wrong to others. If you are betrayed, do not betray anyone. If you are called a liar, do not be furious. If you are praised, do not be jubilant. If you are criticized, do not fret and think what is said in criticism. If you find in yourself what is criticized about you, and you are falling down in the eyes of Allah, when you're furious about the truth, it is much greater calamity than you're falling down in the eyes of people. When we are faced with betrayal, when we are faced with insults, it is not of the Ahlul Bayt, it is not of the school to return these insults, or to return this kind of revenge or so that we would say. And this is not just about those who are from a different faith attacking you, or someone you don't know attacking you. I'm going to give you a better example for us to be understand clemency. Many of ourselves in our own lives, in relation to our own parents, we find that your parents are they don't respond in the proper way, or they're angry at you for no reason, or they might insult you. You need to understand, of course, that it is not for me to say anything back. It is not for me to be able to respond to my parents in such a manner. But I need to show my own hilm. I need to show my own clemency for me to be able to respond with a smile and respond with kindness. Because that is, of course, the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt. For they have taught us that. And the rewards of this from Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, clemency in the midst of severe anger protects one from the anger of the Almighty. It doesn't matter whoever someone says to me, but rather it's important what Allah believes of me. Allah knows my character more than anyone else. If this person is saying anything to me, then I'm not to respond to him in an equal manner, but I'm going to respect him. And I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows me for who I am. This is what we should be thinking. And it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that rewards us for this. And we're going to end off slowly with an ayah of the Quran, which says, وَلَا تَسْتَوِ الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا سَيِّئَةُ ادْفَعْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. Good and evil cannot be equal. Respond to evil with what is best. Then the ones who are in a feud with you will be like your own close friends. So even the Quran says, when you are halim, when you are someone who is clement, someone who is very kind to someone in front of you, you can see that even your enemies become your friends. This is the way that the Ahlul Bayt have taught us. Those who were angry at them, those who were the enemies, just like the person who called Imam Baqir al-Bakar, soon he realized his mistake, and then he became a Muslim. So you can see that this is the way that the Ahlul Bayt has taught someone to respond to any kind of insult and not respond with anger. So we want to make sure that we can see this. And our responsibility, of course, is that of Imam Bakir. We must also seek knowledge. As our youth said, he said, we also need to replicate our Imams. we need to also search for knowledge. We must also split knowledge, seek knowledge, and spread knowledge, just as Imam Bakar alayhi salam. And through that, it helps us to find clemency. As we said, that incumbent upon you, Imam Ali alayhi salam said, that عَلَيْكَ بِالْحِلْمِ فَإِنَّهُ ثَمَرَةُ الْعَلِيمِ. Hilm is the fruit of knowledge. When you find this knowledge, when you split this knowledge, when you seek it, only then can you reach that state of hilm, that state of forbearance, that state of clemency, to be able to respond to those in a very kind manner, in a very forgiving manner. So inshallah, let us all, on the wilada of Imam Baqir alayhi salam, strive to also reach that level of hilm, to strive to reach that level of knowledge. For only then can we also be called one of the companions and one of the followers of as-sahib al-asr wa zaman. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah.